the other thing that this really needs to do to fit into the way that people play at home is work with stereo playback. Tons of amps have a little auxiliary in or some kind of function that you can play other sources than your guitar through them, but unsurprisingly, most of the time that sounds like you're playing your iPod through a guitar amp, which is not a great sound. What we built into this was the fact that it sounds great as an amp, but it sounds great as a stereo playback source as well. So you've got a choice of inputs to this. You can either go in via an auxiliary input on a 3.5mm jack, so that'll go in from any smartphone or iPod or anything you've got basically, or USB 2 from Mac or PC. So it'll take the audio straight out of iTunes, straight out of your desktop basically. So if you're playing along with YouTube or learning some tracks or playing to a backing track on iTunes, you've got a great quality stereo sound and everything coming from the same set of speakers, which is hugely, hugely valuable. And it really does sound good. It really does sound good enough to be a hi-fi. And having everything in there together just makes it much easier to get into. So it becomes something that just works really well with how you actually want to play at home. So as an audio out, it's fantastic, great quality sound, and this thing about having the guitar sound and the stereo sound from the same set of speakers in the same place makes an enormous difference. Otherwise you end up having your stereo sound maybe coming from your desk and your guitar sound coming from down there and over there. It just doesn't work very well. You're sort of struggling to get a mix, and it doesn't fit in, and it doesn't blend in with the sound. It's just another thing that takes away from the engagement of playing. So just bringing those two things together works really well. And again, because of the quality of the modelled sounds, you can get the same sounds basically that you're hearing on the records through those speakers really, really easy, because they're proper, real, pro, studio-grade modelled sounds. So as playback, it's really simple. But also, the USB doesn't just do that. The USB also works as a recording interface. So it'll come with Cubase in the box, and you can use it as a USB interface with whatever software you're using. So I'm just setting it up here with GarageBand. That's what I've got on this machine. And as a USB 2 interface, it works extremely simply. And it does something very, very cool in that it actually has 4 channels of output from the amp. So over the USB, you've got a stereo pair with all the modelled sounds and the effects and the speaker simulators, so the sounds you're hearing out of the speakers. But you've also got a stereo clean DI, which is just a killer feature for recording, because it means that if you want to, you can reamp that clean sound later on. You can put it through another model in this, or any other modelling software you've got, or if you wanted to, you could put it through your huge tube combo and mic it up and reamp it that way. And actually it's a way a lot of pro studios record now, is they record the sound and the DI at the same time. Both for that reason that you've got the flexibility of the sound, but also because if you want to edit, it's miles simpler, because a finished waveform of a guitar sound is really compressed and really difficult to find the sort of edit points and the lines. But the clean signal is far, far easier, far more obvious. So it works really well. So recording with this thing is really easy. And again, because you're using the amp, you just dial up your guitar sound, hit record, and you're there. And then you have a separate USB auxiliary volume control on the THR itself. If you hit play on that, you've got the modelled sound there. And if I just switch over those tracks, you've got the exact same sound DI, so I can do whatever I want with that. And because you're doing all the monitoring on the hardware, on the unit itself, no latency, none of that weird kind of soft attack that you get sometimes when you're actually using the modelling within the computer. No system overhead, so it's not going to crash, it's not causing any problems, and it's just miles easier to get the sound and get it onto, well, it's not tape anymore, it's hard drive, but to get it down really, really quickly. It just fits in really well. So you've got that. Also, it runs on 8AA batteries for 7 hours, so it's a great practice amp. It's a good enough sounding stereo playback thing that you could just use it as your hi-fi if you wanted to. It's a great recording interface with Cubase or any other software, and it's a little battery-powered guitar amp that is going to fit in and kind of work anywhere that you use it. It's basically, it's everything you need when you're not on stage.